Welcome to the Celebrating Women podcast, co-hosted by Mandee Montana and Ashley Fisher, a podcast that celebrates women, their issues, their thoughts, their lives, conversations that celebrate their gifts, their talents, their courage. It's the Celebrating Women podcast. Presented by Hand & Stone Massage and Facial Spa in Tyler, Texas. Hey there, it's Mandee Montana. Are you taking great care of your skin? You know, I use great products, I take my vitamins, and I drink plenty of water. But I could be better about applying sunscreen daily and making sure my skin is protected against premature aging. What about you? I've got great news, though. I do have a solution. It's called the Diamond Glow Treatment at Hand & Stone Massage and Facial Spa in Tyler. I love it. It exfoliates and hydrates your skin at the same time. I know my skin feels so soft and silky after. You have got to try it. If you've never had a facial before, they do offer different options at Hand & Stone, like hydrating and brightening. If you're struggling, though, with dark spots, hyperpigmentation, sun damage, sallow skin, enlarged pores, maybe oily skin, this is the treatment for you. If you want your skin to glow and look and feel amazing, you've got to try the Diamond Glow. Located in Cumberland Shopping Center, schedule your appointment today. Visit handandstonetyler.com. That's handandstonetyler.com. Welcome back to the Celebrating Women podcast. I'm Mandee Montana.
And I'm Ashley Fisher.
And it's almost 2024.
What in the world?
I know.
I saw a meme the other day that said it went from December 1st to December 15th in like 2 seconds. And I agree completely. Yes. This month has gone by so fast. It's Christmas Eve right now. Mm-hmm. And I just cannot believe that 2023 is coming to a close. Like, has this been a good year for you, would you say?
It's been a challenging year for me. Not necessarily bad. There have been great things that have happened, but I've been challenged in a lot of ways, mentally, physically, emotionally. And so I think it's been a rewarding year in that way because I feel like I've come through it.
Yeah.
But it's been challenging.
Yeah. I've been trying to think like how I would encapsulate this year. And I mean, I'm just so grateful. Like I'm thinking about, you know, my surgeries. We were talking about that, how much better I'm feeling. Mm-hmm. And I'm so thankful for that. So thankful for that. And then I'm also like, that was a good, challenging year. Like,
yeah.
Like there was just a lot. There's just a lot. I feel like the last 2 years, it's like challenging, I think. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't necessarily need to be a bad thing.
No, challenges can be good.
It just is what it is. It's just challenging.
They strengthen you.
Yes.
You know?
So, you know, typically, I don't know. We haven't actually talked about this part, but the last several years, I would say the last maybe 7 years or so, I feel like I've gotten like a word going into the new year that kind of, whether I am intentional about it or not, I'll go back throughout the year and go, oh, dang, that was that word. Like, this really is a theme for my year. Mm-hmm. And last year, at the beginning of the year, I remember thinking, I don't like my word.
What was your word?
Confident.
You didn't like that word?
No, because I'm like, I don't care.
Okay.
But isn't it funny?
Yeah.
Because at the very beginning, going into 2023, I had zero idea that surgeries and all of that were on the horizon. Mm-hmm. Zero idea, because I thought it was an impossibility. There's like, no way. I mean, there's no way.
You had just sort of figured out what was going on in your body, right?
Yeah. So like May of 22, we found out that lipedema was a thing. Mm-hmm. And then I wasn't actually diagnosed until later in January of 23. Okay. So just the beginning of this year.
But you thought that's what you had. You just needed a medical diagnosis.
Yes. And then surgery was like, well, that's not going to happen, you know, and then it all beautifully unraveled and worked out. But I just remember thinking like confident. I don't like that. Like, I want something deeper. But, you know, when I look back, like, and I knew at the time, confident doesn't have to just mean, like, I like the way I look. Confident can go into so many things. And it does have depth. And I can see where I gained more confidence, like, in a lot of different areas, you know?
I mean, you started 2 podcasts.
I did. Yeah.
And they're successful.
And, photography did really well. You know what? Little secret?
What little secret? Is this a secret you actually want to share?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. I'll be transparent.
Yeah.
I do not feel confident at all going into 2024.
Why?
I don't know why. Normally with my business, it's always just been like all right, we're just trucking along. We're just doing the thing. And I don't know if maybe it's because, this last year I was number one, Tyler's local celebus. Because I really don't care. I don't care about the number because I've honestly thought if I make the list, if I don't make the list, that's not what makes or breaks me. But for whatever reason, I'm battling people aren't going to want to come see me this year.
Girl, that is in your head. And I know because it's been in my head before about things. And I've actually had conversations with friends where when I started network marketing, I was excited, passionate, told a lot of people what I was doing, probably threw up on people, word vomiting essentially because I was excited. And that's natural and that happens a lot when people are young. But I hit some really hard times in my business. Not totally my fault, just kind of the situation and circumstances of the world at the time. And I developed this mental block in my head that nobody wanted to talk to me because I was a salesperson.
See, okay, and now did that affect your business?
It affected everything in my life. I was hiding in a hole for 2 years.
See, and I'm for the first time, I've just passed 10 years with my business. This is the first time ever that I've been I feel like I could choke. And I'm like, what the heck?
We should read this book together. I'm trying to remember what it's called because I've read it before, but you know how sometimes you just need to reread a book? And it's a great listen on audio too. I think it's called The Big Leap. And there's this thought in there, and it talks about a rubber band with success. And what happens is when you hit your what's it called? It's it's a positive limit. It's like the expectation of success for you.
Yeah.
When you hit that upper ceiling of it, it's like a rubber band snapping and it'll snap back.
Yes.
And then you lose your confidence.
Okay. So,
and the similar thing happened in my business. I had hit this really high peak.
Yes.
And then I snapped back.
See, and I feel like I think what it is I have this, I've been honestly tiptoeing towards 24 a little scared because I feel like I had so many, even though it was challenging, so many blessings in 23. The surgeries working out, the travel working out, the business doing well, the podcast, all this stuff. I'm just like, oh my gosh, that was such a blessed, it was very full year. That I think there's something in me that worries now the carpet's going to get ripped out from under me.
When is the shoe going to drop?
I hate that. Yeah. Why can't we just be of course stuff is going to happen, but that doesn't mean that the world's going to fall apart. It did. It's not like this year was just full of woohoo! Right. It was hard. Yeah. It was really hard. And it took a lot of hard work. So
I think sometimes we underestimate and we get worried and we get over anxious and overthink the hard when the hard is actually good. It's what makes us better.
Yeah.
Same for me. I do too. In fact, we were just talking right before we turned the mic on. I made this to-do list this week of things that I need to get done. And as soon as I made it, I felt like, okay, awesome. I got it all written down. And then I closed it because I wasn't ready to actually start the list. I just needed to get it all on paper.
Yeah.
And the next time I opened it, I was like, oh my God,
I don't want to
start this. This is overwhelming, when really if I would just slow down and even just break it up into a few things at a time and start it, I know that I'll be fine. It's just finding that focused amount of time where I feel like I can start with a little bit of clarity and then it'll knock itself out in no time.
Yeah. And I know to kind of, I think I've said this before, as I get older, this phrase sticks out in my mind that my mom would tell me as a kid, baby, put it in neutral. So when you're overwhelmed, when you're really tired, when, whatever, you just put it in neutral. Meaning, what's the worst time to start thinking about something, worrying about something, making decisions? It's when you're hungry, alone, tired. What is it? HALT. Hungry, alone, lonely, and tired. And she would just say, just put it in neutral. Just try to, while you're kind of getting over this little hump of overwhelm or the hump of just getting through the holidays, put it in neutral and just trust is what that kind of meant. And like, I've already been thinking about new things for the business that I'm really excited about, like branding memberships for, my clients that will help keep their content for their businesses nice and fresh throughout the month, which I'm like, that sounds so fun. I love coming alongside my friends that I've watched them build their businesses, and now like get to help them like keep it super uber profesh, so just different things like that. But I just am dealing with like, is it called the yips? Is that what that's called?
Yeah, I think it is, actually. I think it is. So I didn't know about the yips until I watched Ted Lasso, but I think that's what it is.
Yeah, so I'm dealing with the yips. But speaking of like your to-do list and heading into the new year, so many times people are thinking, all right, it's time. New Year's resolutions. Are you a resolution chick?
I'm more of a goals
Okay.
chick. I used to set resolutions when I was younger because it was like the trending thing to do, and everybody would talk about what's your New Year's resolution, like in high school, middle school, whatever, even early adulthood. And I would usually resolve to do something differently, but I don't know that I ever actually resolved to do it, because when you resolve to do something, it's like a serious commitment.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that we miss out on when we're like making resolutions.
We write the list, and then the list overwhelms us, and then we walk away from the list. And
And I was talking with a yoga studio owner actually about a week ago, and we were talking about the influx of people that come in January and how it starts to fade about 6 weeks in, and then by March
you're like, where'd everybody go?
Pretty much. And that's normal. It's totally fine. And if that's you, this is not to shame you. I've been there. I've done that. But I feel like now I like to set goals. If I miss goals, I miss them, right? But I like to have something to aim at. But I really like to set intentions. So like for me, like I want to learn more in 2024. I feel like this is a year of learning for me. I don't know why. That just kind of came over me this morning whenever I was thinking about this conversation that we were going to have. I was like, I really feel like I'm supposed to learn in 2024. I really need to apply some of that, I feel like, because I need to get some things rolling. But, kind of to your point, I had a lot of really great things happen in 2023. I just also was really challenged in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But when looking back on things, hindsight being 2020, when I've been most challenged, I've often also had the biggest rewards.
Yeah.
So, I don't really want to ask for that. That's
I
not
know.
what I'm asking for. I'm not asking for more challenges.
Yeah.
But they do tend to make me sharper and stronger and, come through it better somehow.
So learn more, like how, rather than taking that and sitting down and writing down a list of like, okay, I'm going to learn this, 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 and this. You said it kind of helps you just be more intentional. How does that word help you be intentional? Like, how do you go about January with a word like that, or with like an intention like that?
So I feel like for me, what that's going to look like is self-reflection first over this last year, and really kind of taking a hard look at the challenges and maybe what created them. Yeah. Because some of them were of my own doing.
Right.
And have been longer lasting than they needed to be, which means I need to do some self-reflection and maybe learn some better communication skills and better behavioral skills in certain situations. And I'm a big believer in, if you don't know something, hire a professional.
Yeah.
Not everybody is, and that's okay. Some people are totally DIY, but I feel like this is probably a time in my life when I need to hire a professional, again, meaning like to go see a therapist, to learn more, to do some self-reflection and have a really solid professional sounding board to say, you need some clarity here. Yeah. Or let's shift this. Because I don't think I was my best self in 2023.
Ladies and gentlemen, maturity has entered the room. That's what I keep thinking. I'm like, good Lord, would that we all I think I need to do some self-reflection. Like, that's just not.
Sorry.
No, it's good. It's so good because I'm just thinking we just don't live in a world, I don't think, that starts with, let me look on the inside. Let me look at me.
Well,
Let me look at where I was the common denominator, because I think that's a good way for like me to start off, this year. It's a good way for all of us to go, what was good and what could have been better, and where did I fall short in that, and where could I have, where do I need some, like, what's the word? Supplementation maybe this year, like
or
for you,
support
therapy.
or,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, and I'll tell you too, with this, we've talked really openly about therapy, and people often ask, because I'm a big proponent on it with like my Instagram and the Lippy Lady stuff. And I'll get messages from people who are like, how did you find your therapist? And I'm like, it's a process.
It is a
I
process.
started going to therapy consistently about 5 years ago, and I've dated. And until I and every therapist that you go to has their benefits and they will help. And then if you feel like they're it and they're like the perfect fit, then you just stay and it's awesome, and you work and you work and you work. But then there are seasons where it just feels like, you know what? I don't know if that is the right person in this season. And so, for me, like, I've come to like the person that I'm with now. And I told her in the beginning, I said, look, my number one fear in therapy is for someone to sit across from me and pat me on the hand and say, you poor thing. I said, if if I'm the narcissist, tell me. And then she's like, well, based on the fact that you just asked that question,
You're not.
You're not,
Yeah.
more than likely. I said, okay, fine. But I don't want to be patted on the hand, and I don't want to be like, oh, you poor thing. I need,
You want to do the work.
I want to do the work. And man, oh, Lord have mercy. This
She's
chick,
put you through it.
oh my gosh. But it's so good. It's
Yeah.
just so good.
Yeah.
Like, I'll just say something and she'll be like, where'd you get the idea that relationships are so fragile? I'm like, I don't know. Like, think about it. But, all of that
Interesting.
to say, like, start the process. And it may not be the perfect fit in the beginning, but it will help you break the surface on some things that that's just been kind of crusted over in your heart, you know? And I don't know. I just feel like that can be like such a daunting thing for people. And I feel like a lot of people are at the place where therapy is like, maybe I should do that, just start the process, and you'll find the right groove or whatever.
I appreciate the permission to date therapists. I'm so glad you brought that up, because like the lady that I went to a few years ago was fantastic at the time and in the process. And then, I kind of did a telehealth session with her in 2020, which was like a few years later than whenever I had gone consistently before. And the vibe was just different, in part probably because it was over the computer in the middle of a pandemic, right?
Yeah.
So I think I prefer to be in an office with someone.
Yeah, me too.
So I will probably start there. But if I feel like it's not the right fit, I appreciate having the permission and the guidance from someone who's been through the process to say, like, maybe try somebody different.
Yeah. Therapy, I think, should do two things. It should affirm and like validate your emotions, and it should challenge mindsets.
Oh, that's really good.
So if one is being done but not the other, it may not be the best fit, and only you're going to know that,
And sometimes it can feel too comfortable, almost like a friendship.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? As opposed to somebody who's really challenging you.
Yes.
To think differently and to question, like, okay, why am I thinking this? Like that's where I get lost in my own thoughts sometimes. That's why I'm saying I feel like I need a professional, is because I do get lost in spiral of I'm thinking on this one train, and then I start, rutting that groove, and it just stays in it, like that nobody wanted to talk to me because I sold something.
Right.
God,
yeah.
I mean, and actually the person I talked to about it was Lindsay Steele that we've had on the podcast.
Really?
Yeah. I told her one day, I was like, I'm really, like, I have all this self-doubt. Like, I just feel like, I don't want to reach out to anybody because I'm afraid that that's what they think I'm reaching out to them for is because I want to sell them something. And she went, Mandee?
I love her.
What? I mean, she just had this like shocked reaction of just like, nobody thinks that about you.
But see, you need that.
I did. I really needed, like, I think God just knew I needed to have that conversation with Lindsay because she's such an over the top, colorful, wonderful, vibrant personality.
Yeah.
And she had that full reaction of like, no.
That was the full picture of what you needed.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is entirely off base. That's a very tiny piece of you. And
Yeah.
it's a part of what you do and it's part of how you make money. But that's not how people see you.
And you need that.
And I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It was so, like, I think I cried.
Yeah.
It just was
such a relief.
It was such a relief because I had really, like, I love her so much. And I hadn't been reaching out to her to spend time with her because
you were afraid that, oh.
Yes. And there were other people in my life at the same time that I was having those feelings about where I was like, gosh, are they just going to think that like I'm trying to like have lunch with them because I'm trying to have an awkward conversation? It was such a burden.
Yeah.
And it's something that I had never dealt with before. Actually, the ironic thing is I had the opposite side of the table for so many years in radio where I had friends or family that were reaching out to me because they wanted something from me because I had concert tickets or tickets to Six Flags or Splash Kingdom or whatever.
Right.
I had people coming out of the woodworks. Can you help me win? Can you help me win? Can you help me win?
See, so actually it was just you like
It was a total mind warp.
Yeah, because you know how that felt for you and you didn't want to be the person doing that to somebody else.
And it never really like there was only one person that ever got under my skin, and he's a family member that I don't talk to very much, so I'm not going to out him. But because that was the only time I ever heard from him was if we had like something really big to give away. I was like, come on now. But like when friends would reach out, it didn't bother me. It was like if I had them and I could give them to them, I wanted to.
Yeah,
like if there was a way that I could sort of like, nobody picked these up and you want to go, here, take them. You know, that was fun. That actually felt like a gift. But but there, that one family member, and I love him dearly, but truly, I think I've heard from him once in the last 6 years. And it was not at the radio station at the time. But prior to that, it would go that long. It'd be like every 4 or 5 years I'd hear from him when we had like football tickets or something,
Oh,
you know.
gosh. Okay, P.S. If you listen to this, call Mandee just to say hey.
He won't listen to this. I'm fine. I'm fine. But
I'm fine. This is fine.
it's fine. Hopefully he's fine. I haven't heard from him. I'm sure he's fine.
You know, so like used to when I was younger, it's okay, it's a new year. And I would sit down and I would write out physical goals. And it was always
Really?
like, you know, lose 20 pounds, even, you know, but do all this stuff. And I would list, eat good and exercise 3 times a week and, you know, all this stuff. And then I would have spiritual goals, read my Bible every day. And I mean, I would have lists going across all spans of life because I would literally do physical, spiritual, like I would have like house goals. Keep it spotless every day.
Oh, that's
number one.
Ashley, these sound so unrealistic.
But you know, it just felt so good and productive to write these lists down.
Yes.
But then the moment
You're
the
not
clock
alone.
strikes midnight, I'm looking at these lists going, what the hell? Like that just feels, I feel defeated going into the new year and the new year has not even hardly begun. And so at some point I did away with like those lists because they literally were as good as the paper they were written on. I mean, that's how much they were worth.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and they only served to make me feel great about myself.
Right?
And then at some point, I don't know, these words just kept coming to me and they would just kind of come like towards
like a
the end of the
theme?
year. Yeah. Just something to maybe focus on or come back to, be drawn back to. It's been interesting, you know, it's been a neat way to kind of be like, okay, well, what's going on? You
If
know?
I could have a second word, focus would be the one that I lack. I have lacked a lot of focus in my life for a few years. And it's in part because I have a few things going on and things that have sort of come out of the woodwork in the last year, which are great. But even within doing multiple things, I can find focus, right?
Yeah.
And I've lacked it. You're laughing because you...
No, I'm laughing because I'm like, I don't need that word in my life.
We all need that word in our life to some extent.
Like, Ashley, I'm going to tattoo that word on your forehead.
This is not passive aggressive or directed at you at all. It is completely directed at me.
No, I'm just laughing because I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels like a challenging word, but I could definitely, and I have a friend that we were actually talking about this book called Dream It, Pin It, Live It by Terry Savelle Foy. And it's about creating a vision board. And it talks about goal setting in that process too. But it's also, what I like about it is it feels realistic. So she sets like 10 goals for the year, and they're in different categories, but it's not lists upon lists.
Yeah.
And it's things that are SMART goals. So specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound.
Nice.
Yeah. So, you might not hit all of them, but it gives you something to aim at, right?
Yeah.
And so I've been trying to adjust because I have had new things happen. I don't guess I've talked about this on the podcast, but I'm doing some stuff in TV now, and it's really like tiny at the moment. I don't know if it'll grow or not. I hope so, because I've been having fun with it. Like, I haven't set any kind of goals with it. So why would it grow? Right.
Yeah, right.
So I feel like I need to learn a little bit about that and put some focus into that. And, with the podcast too, you and I have talked about kind of where we want to go and what we want to do, but we also haven't really focused on it because we've had so many other challenging things happening in our lives in the last year. We just also decided to do this. So I'm really proud of what we've done, though, with our lack of focus.
I am too.
We have been consistent.
We have shown up, and we've done the deal. I'm excited for more conversations in 2024 with just other women. That's just been so, I just love, getting in the room with somebody who's doing something and just listening to their heart and giving them a space to, talk about that. And I'm excited to do more of that this year.
Same.
Yeah.
It's been such a pleasure this year meeting your friends and the people that you've introduced me to. It's just been so much fun to sort of increase our network and get to know each other's people. And I mean, I'm not surprised when I'm like, oh, you love her too? Like, that doesn't surprise me in the slightest because I love you so much. But it's just been such a joy to spend time and meaningful conversation with. Yeah.
With just good human beings, it's just refreshing. It's just so funny to me because I think back, like how often I thought when I was having a conversation with somebody, like, somebody needs to hear what you just said. And now for this 3-room space that started off as just my photography studio, for one whole room to be dedicated to having those conversations on mic is flooring to me. Still very surreal. I think that's why I'm just kind of like,
Yeah, as we're sitting in the, it's kind of a dreary morning. There's like a fog advisory, but we're sitting in the neon light of our celebrating women sign. It's kind of nice.
It is nice. Yeah,
it's been a good year. I was thinking about it this morning. We started, the first episode aired March 21st, which is Women's History Month. And I remember thinking, I think the first day when we started assembling things or came together and you maybe showed me the space, it might have been International Women's Day. I think
it was because we hung that sign.
Yeah.
We took a picture and it was International Women's Day that day.
So it's just, and we're coming up to the anniversary of that in just a couple months. That's
insane.
I guess technically 3, but it feels like it's going to be here in just a flash.
I know.
It's wild.
It is. It really is. I think a challenge, this is something I think about that I would have for anybody going into the new year and trying to figure out, I think there is something to going into a fresh new year with intention and with purpose, but knowing where to put that is really crucial because you can sit there and think, okay, I'm going to focus on being organized. And doesn't that just sound so pretty and neat and wonderful? And it is. Mm-hmm. It's great. It's fantastic. However, when you're going to get the most meaning out of setting an intention for the year, it's not necessarily going to be by setting it on the thing that sounds good. I think it takes getting quiet and listening to what's the word rolling around in your heart. And even if it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to you, will you grab hold of it and just set your intention on it? Because there might be something deeper there. So often people might get discouraged or get off track because maybe that just wasn't really the word God intended for you that year, like confident. I was that wasn't my word. That was not the word that I want. I was like, whatever. But boy, do I see like the ties to that, all year. So my challenge is have your words that like you're thinking, that sound good, but take some time to get quiet and just see if anything pops up that you're like, what is that? And just, kind of pluck it out and just see where it goes, I think that that's what makes it a little bit more meaningful because it's so easy. I mean, we could all sit down and, organized. I'm going to be organized this year. Okay, great.
What does that mean?
And at the end of your year,
it could mean a lot of different things.
And you are so much more than how organized you are. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And that's not to say organization can't make you be that much more of a badass at whatever it is that you're doing. But again, it's just don't just settle on something that sounds good. What's rolling around on the inside of you? Because that's probably the thing that you should focus on. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
I do. I'm a big fan of journaling. So I find that sometimes writing it out helps me process. Sometimes talking it out also helps me process. So like if that was the word, organized, well, why is that your word?
Mm-hmm. And what does that mean exactly?
What does that mean to you? Like, are you thinking in terms of work? Are you thinking in terms of your home? Are you thinking in terms of just the way you think? Mm-hmm. I mean, it could be a lot of different things.
It could. And these words can seem very simple at first, but like confident, at first I just thought of, oh, yay, okay, I'll be confident myself. But that went so much deeper than skin deep,
I was about to say, was your appearance the first thing that you thought of?
My appearance was the very first thing I thought of. And then, but what I watched develop this last year was my confidence in me as a businesswoman, in me as a mom, in me as a wife, like, oh, wow, I didn't even really think about that. Like that really, hit on every level this year. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think if I should say what I felt like. The last few days have been like, Lord, where's my word? I don't have a word. And then this morning I was like, I think it's unedited.
Oh.
Which my photos will still be edited. Don't worry about that. But that was the word that came to me.
I don't necessarily know that that's a professional thing. And I'm going to say that in relation to the podcast too, because I'm going to edit this podcast, Ashley.
Yes. Oh, yes.
My point is, I feel like that maybe it could be editing yourself in conversation with people that you love as far as how you communicate. Because I don't know about you, but I'm really good at communicating with some people, and I'm really bad at communicating sometimes with the people that I love the most.
Yep.
And I definitely edit those conversations personally.
Do you know what I edit the most?
What?
My prayers.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And I think that is where this morning
that's where that's coming from.
I could feel it. It was like, with my kids, I would never want them to come to me and edit what they're saying before they tell me. Or to be like, because I'll just be real. I just found myself this morning going, Lord, I just lay aside all of my worries and my fears, and I just want to spend time with you. And I thought, it just struck me where I could just feel him going, baby, you have something you're worried about? Why don't you tell me about that? Do you have something that's hurting your feelings? Why don't you tell me about that? Mm-hmm. And that unedited dropped in my heart. And I thought, Oh, damn.
You're skimming the surface.
Yeah. Because I have learned somewhere along the way that that's somehow what I'm supposed to do.
I see.
You know?
Yeah.
And it just dawned on me, if I'm going to have a real, authentic relationship, I have to be real, authentic, unedited. Because if I'm coming in like smile on my face and I just love you so much, which is so true, but I'm leaving over there the things that are weighing me down, that's not healthy.
Well,
You know?
it's a learning process.
Yes. So
Yeah.
that, I thought, okay, all right.
Somebody needed to hear that today, Ashley. I'm glad you shared it.
Well, that's as real as it gets this morning at, 8:30 in the morning?
Yeah.
With half of my coffee down me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I obviously love you and appreciate all of our conversations, but I feel like this was a really good one for us to have as we're getting closer to the new year. I feel like a lot of people are probably having the same feelings and thoughts that you and I've sort of talked through this morning.
Yeah.
Some of these things have been on my mind for a few weeks because I typically do like to sort of do a year in review sort of in my own mind and think about what I would like for the next year. But, the last few years have been so volatile in the world that I just haven't really felt like it's a good idea to just make a whole lot of plans because you never know what's going to happen next.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's part of the reason I like learn and focus feel like good words because
That feels like great words. Yeah.
It's not necessarily putting a lot of specificity on specific dates or timelines or
That's just a bent to have.
yeah, exactly. Because I don't know. I might learn something new and decide to refocus, I mean, there's a lot could happen, but I feel like it's just a good conversation to have and a good thought to have headed into the new year. And then I'm excited because we've got, a few people that you and I both have like a short list of that we want to have come in over the next couple of months. So I am really looking forward to some of the conversations we're going to have there. And then, any of you guys that are listening, if there's if there's a topic that you want us to get into or somebody that you want us to talk to, feel free to reach out on social media or send us an email. A lot of you just send us text messages because you have our phone numbers at this point, which is also totally fine. But if you have passed this on to somebody else that doesn't, visit the show notes. There's links there on how to get in touch with us. And we'd love to hear from you.
Yep. Happy New Year, friends.
Happy New Year.
The Celebrating Women podcast wants to hear from you. Email us a voice message to celebratingwomenpodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear your story or the story of an incredible woman you know. Become part of the conversation on social media. Facebook.com/Celebrating Women Podcast. On Instagram, search Celebrating Women Podcast. The Celebrating Women Podcast has been presented by Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa in Tyler, Texas. Book your appointment today. Stop by the spa in Cumberland Shopping Center or online at handandstonetyler.com. The Celebrating Women podcast is created and hosted by Mandee Montana and Ashley Fisher. Support the show for as little as $3 per month at celebratingwomenpodcast.buzzsprout.com or visit our show notes. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe to the Celebrating Women podcast.